This is the Special Project Standing Building Committee meeting. The meeting date is Monday, February 7th. The meeting time is 5:15, and my name is Gerald Foley, and I'm recording this meeting for to be identified and posted for the public. Continue, Rich.
Okay, thank you. Okay, first off, for those that are on, we have a new member, Chuck Oliveri. He's been fully vetted and sworn in, so welcome to Chuck, and we're happy to have you, Chuck, that's for sure. And I know that you have quite a bit of construction history, as we discussed a couple of months ago, I guess it was now, and you have served on other committees, am I correct?
Yes, I did serve on Town Facilities Commission many, many years ago. When we were building Roger Ludlow School.
All right, good. Okay, let's get down to.
Rich, can I just ask who else is there?
Sure, everybody but Al. Including Rodney.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
Okay. So I'd like to get the invoices out of the way because we have a pretty big, could be a lengthy discussion on the bids. So the first order of business is the Silver Petrocelli invoices, and I'm going to take them one at a time because I have to, I guess. Invoice number 21-2123 in the amount of $230. I recommend that we approve that payment. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Richard.
Okay, thank you. All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed? Hear none. Motion carried. Next invoice is 21-2363. Again, Silver Petrocelli. Again, in the amount of $230. Recommended for payment. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Well, motion carried. Third invoice is 20.
Can I ask a question on the third invoice? Since that's the final 100% billed, are we completely done with them?
Yeah, this is Gerald Foley. Yeah, so later on you'll see another invoice for Burr from the contractor.
Yes, I saw that, and I saw that it was 100% complete, but I just wanted something from somebody.
Yeah, so as far as I know, yeah, this is Gerald Foley again. So as far as I know, yes, this will be the final invoice that we will be receiving from Silver Petrocelli for this job.
Actually, there's
I don't know if
two more.
There's another one.
There's bear with me here. There's one.
More.
Yeah, this is the 98th percentile. I'm sorry. So yeah, so there's. I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Correct.
Oh yeah, I thought that was the last one too. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
But
yeah.
That's okay. I thought it was the last one also. The point being that we got everything we need from the project, and we're ready to close out, so there's no reason to hold any money on anybody at this point. Is that correct?
I believe that's correct. Go ahead.
We have the AIA document, which is going to pay them in full. That's one of the last ones that we're going to talk about today. So I think that will answer your question. Yes, they're closing it out totally.
Right, I know. I understand that's coming up. We're asking to pay it now, so that's why I'm asking a question now. We're voting on whether to approve everything, and I just want to know, is Sal on?
Yes,
I am on.
Okay. So, Sal, you have everything you need from the project?
For Burr, yes, I do.
For Burr, okay. That's all. That's all. I just want a confirmation. Thank you.
Okay. To continue with the invoices, the next invoice is 2761 in the amount of $138 recommended for payment. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
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 Carried.
Rich, I'm sorry, did you get the motion on 2968?
Yes, I'm
The
just about to
$92?
do that one. Yes, I have that one here. So that's 21-2968 in the amount of $92. So I recommend that for payment. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion carried. So that's the end of the invoices for Silver Petroselli. The next payment we need to approve is a AIA submittal from Silktown Roofing. And it's a final payment, and the amount is $67,300.92. And Ken, you have signed this as the final. You're satisfied from the engineering point of view that everything is done, right?
Yes. Hi, folks. This is Ken Lindley with Silver Petroselli and Associates, and yes, we have signed off on this project. We have received all final documentation and have approved the final punch list. So, in our opinion, yes, they have fulfilled their contractual obligation, and we recommend to pay them their last bit of retainage.
Okay. So, with recommending approval of this $67,300.92, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 All right. No objection noted. So it's approved for payment. And that's us on the money issue. I guess the next thing to do is to have Sal give us the lowdown on what's happening with the Roger Ludlow School. Good.
Hi, everybody. Sal Morbido. So we received bids that you have the tabulation. Silktown has the low bid of $3,016,500. Unfortunately, that is above our funding for this project. We have funding of $2,967,000. $2,967,207. So total, that leaves us short. Hang on a second, I got all my numbers here. There's a total shortage for the Silktown contract just under $50,000. That's $49,293. And we will need to write another PO to Silver Petroselli for $800 for contract administration. So to get to the point that we can write a contract, we need to find some money, and it's we have to take a couple of deducts. There's a deduct alternate for not replacing the smoke hatches with new. That's $16,000. There is an allowance built into the base bid of $17,280 for replacement of decking. It's a young building and hasn't had severe leakage history, so we think that's a safe idea. And that leaves us $24,013 short. We can, until we go through some value engineering, write that shortage on some operating accounts, such as our roof preventative maintenance and our technical consulting account. So we can award a bid, or you can accept the bid, and then it can move to the next step of having a contract approval by the Board of Selectmen. We had when I said we, Silver Petroselli, myself, and the purchasing department had a scope review with the folks over at Silktown. And they did have some thoughts for VE items. Just to give you an idea of where we would be looking to make some savings. This project, as designed, has us raising 16 rooftop units, and they're rather large package units, so there's a lot there. That in itself is over a $400,000 item. So what Silktown is suggesting is to look into adding, and the reason we're doing that is we're adding insulation to meet code. So we need to get the units higher to the adjacent roof surface so that we meet both code and requirements of the manufacturer for warranty. What Silktown suggested was to look at the addition of some drains so that we can change the pitch of the roof so that we don't have to raise as many of the units. So right off the bat, they're, round numbers, it's about $25,000 per unit to raise them up. So right off the bat, if we can save 1 out of 4 from being raised, we saved $100,000 on the project, and we have a contingency account building up, and we take care of our shortage. Another item that they suggested was salvaging existing roof insulation in place. The state, the way that the project is designed is as a roof replacement project. In the state law that pays for these things or reimburse on these things, it states that a roof replacement is a removal of the old system down to the deck. So that's why we designed that way. We had a discussion with the State Office of School Construction and Grants, and he just called me back in the past hour, Mr. Kermit Thompson from OSCG&R. And he said that as long as we have a thermal scan that shows that the insulation is dry, and the roofing manufacturer will issue us a 20-year guarantee, the Office of School Construction is okay with capturing those savings. So that can add up to a fair amount of money.
Did you get that in writing, Sal?
We're going to. We are going to. It literally just. Yeah,
no, I understand. You just had a conversation.
So what we will do is confirm with the roofing manufacturer that they're okay, which we already had those discussions. We would have to pay for a infrared scan, which is about, if I remember the number, it's like $2,700. Ken, is that the right number?
Yes, it's just under 2,700 to be exact. Hang on.
Yeah, that's close enough. So it's good saving, and the state's up on it because, listen, if it saves us money, it saves them money because they're reimbursing on our total.
What you said the roofing the scan is about $2,700. What is the guess of the cost savings to reuse the insulation?
Well, right off the bat, the total insulation package is between $400,000 and $500,000. So now that is a good portion of that is insulation. Let me back up. The existing insulation that's down is deficient based on the new energy code. So we have to add 4 to 5 inches on top of that of rigid insulation. So the existing insulation, so we're not, like if we were able to save half of the roof area, that doesn't mean we're saving half of that 400 to 500,000 because we're putting new insulation on top. But we're saving a piece of it. So it's hard to gauge until we actually get that infrared done and start doing some tallies.
Okay.
There's a lot of moving parts there because we're also talking about adding drains to change the pitch of the roof.
Right.
But there's some money in there. Basically, we're looking to hope to build up, say, $100,000 to $125,000 for a contingency line, just in case we find a defect when we're working. That's why we're
Right.
doing all these
Is
VE
that
items.
a gross or a net sale?
I'm sorry?
Is that a gross savings or a net savings? I mean,
I didn't state a savings amount.
well, you said we're looking to get 125,000.
At the end of the day, after we do our shortage, on a roof project, we want to have a contingency of about 3%. So
Right.
that's roughly $90,000, and we have a shortage of roughly 50. So you're looking to get I'd say a gross savings of those put together, around 140. So that's why we have multiple things that we would be looking at.
Right.
And ultimately, if these don't all pan out, we'd have to go to the boards to ask for additional funding. Rather avoid. That's not the first place to go. We have some time to work with this, a little bit of time.
So to recap, we have the insulation savings possible, and
Yep.
then the mechanical unit savings, as well as the deducts.
Correct. And we have, and the last one that they had, and I'm comfortable with this, and it'll be based on inspection. Typically, when we go in for a roof project in this district, this is unusual. 2 times in a row, we're doing the first roof replacement on a building, and so we typically go in, after this second time around when the building's 40 to 50 years old, and we end up replacing the roof drains because they're old, they're cracked, they're rotting, they're missing parts and things like that. Because of the relative young age of this building, we feel that that the roof drains will probably be in pretty good shape. They might need to get new domes, new drainage domes, maybe some replacement clamps, things like that. So instead of yanking them out, tossing them, and putting a new one in, we'll refurbish them. So that's another thing that, based on inspection, may be a savings. Silktown's line for replacing the drains was like a $75,000 line. That was not all just replacing the drain. It was also relocating them because of the additional roof thickness. We have to relocate them vertically. So, a piece of that is still in there. But,
so you'd have to, going back to your raising of the equipment, then you'd have to have at least 3 just to cover that, and then you need more than that to make any money. If it was $25,000 to raise the units and $75,000 to replace and relocate drains, right?
But right off the bat, we have the existing drains were going to be replaced. That's a $75,000 line item.
That's already in the scope, you mean?
That's already in the scope.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought that was in the, okay.
So one of the VE items that they thought to offer, they was saying, forget about the adding of drains for a moment. Let's not just rip out the existing drains and toss them away just to buy a new one. Let's inspect them. Let's refurbish them, and let's reuse them. So that would be a fairly decent savings also. So with these three things that we believe with an investigation in this coming next few weeks, we should be able to find decent savings for this project and avoid having to seek additional funding.
And how about the addition of the new drains?
I'm sorry, I dumped a whole bunch on you all at once. So.
All right. So, but how you had mentioned earlier that another possibility as part of this was to install some additional new drains.
Correct.
Change the pitch of the roof.
Correct.
So that has to be, that's an added cost that's to be deducted from the savings.
Correct. You would spend some money to save some money. So, whatever number you wanted to put on adding a drain, it depends on the routing. How complicated, how close we can get it to the units. There is a drawing in the in your package in your email, so that you can see where these 16 large rooftop units are. Some of them are clustered together. So it's something to look at to see what we can do to help save these, save raising these, because they are, while they're a little box on the drawing, these are fairly large package units with hydronic piping, and there's control wiring, and it's not just a 5-ton RTU. They're fairly big.
Anybody have any questions?
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Not as specific as this, but we as the Standing Projects Building Committee are only allowed to do projects, I thought, $3 million and under. Obviously, we're hovering quite a bit here. Is that going to present a problem also? I mean, it just seems like we've got a lot of different things going on, that being another one.
No, well, here's what would happen if you accepted the bid and the listed alternate for deducting the smoke hatches, and we deduct the deck allowance, you would be awarding a bid of $2,983,220.
Yeah, no, I realize that.
So you would be under that $3 million limit, and that's. Are you saying if we ended up being over $3 million, would it be a problem?
Yes.
I don't believe so. They assigned it to you. There's always the possibility of going. It's not a hard number. It's just about where to assign this would be the biggest project that you can handle. You're at your financial designation max.
Right. I just wouldn't want it to blow up on us in some way. That's all why I'm asking.
It's an interesting question. I mean, very technically, that's an issue for the first select woman to make, but I don't see what the technical problem would be. building committees are put together with a fund, specific funding, whether it's, the Mill Hill project, the Holland Hill project, something like that. And, we've had, projects in the past that have gone and gotten more funding. So, quote unquote, they exceeded their limit. You exceeded your limit by $100,000 on this one. I don't know that anybody would necessarily jump up and down, because it wasn't known at the time of assigning the work to you.
Well, I mean, we're with all the deducts, with the two deducts, we'd be under the $3 million mark, and we're probably looking at another $130,000 in savings doing these other VE issues. So I really don't think it's going to be an issue.
Correct.
Yeah. So it's a good question, but I don't think it's going to be an issue.
Well, I would just suggest that if the committee decides to, move forward based on all that, just that we make sure that, first select woman is aware of this specific project, and that, this is not a problem for us if we end up going over, that you're doing everything possible to keep it under that, and
right.
that, and again, that the reusing, that the approval by the state to allow the reuse of the insulation is just, you guys all know what I'm thinking about here. A much larger project, that's been having some issues. There's just a lot of stuff to be really careful about.
Okay. Well, and here again, Jane, the $3 million limit is, I don't believe it's any ordinance or statute. It is the Board of Selectmen's charge for the Standing Project Special Building Committee.
That's correct.
And so, if they wanted to modify it, they can modify it, because that $3 million number, hell, that's been here since I've been here. I'm here almost 17 years.
Yeah, no, I understand. I just, I don't claim to know the inner workings of the town's, whatever. I just
understand.
Want to point it out. That's all.
Yes. Yeah. So the biggest thing to do is, as everybody has heard about the supply line issues, it's important to get under contract and get things ordered. Silktown is not necessarily, they believe that they can get all the material for this summer as long as we move, we move quickly. And we explained our process about getting to an award letter and then getting to a contract, assuming everybody plays nice in the sandbox, which is, for a roofing project is typically, it's not a big problem. I mean, we've worked with Silktown before. Doing the contract is not, it's not a contentious item. So, if all this happens within the next 4 weeks, they feel that they can get their order in and actually get the materials and stockpile them early, probably by April. So,
hey, Sal, do you have to go to all three boards or just the selectmen?
It depends on what you're doing.
For approval for this project.
For this project, I mean, we have this funding approval. The next step is a contract, and that contract approval is just the Board of Selectmen.
Okay, all right.
Because anything over $10,000 contract needs to go before the Board of Selectmen.
Sure.
That's new with this administration.
Also,
if you were seeking funding, it would be 3 boards.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Do we feel from a redesign, re-engineering, value engineering standpoint that that's a reasonable time frame? You've got to get the scan, you've got to schedule that, you've got to get the results from that, and then somebody's got to calculate how much insulation you actually need and what we would save, and we have to, I assume, I don't know if we have to come back together and do that. I mean, is that a reasonable?
Well, we would have. I mean, the next thing for this committee, with the assumption that you're approving this bid tonight and moving it forward, the next time you meet, the idea you would have one or more of these items to act upon as a deduct change order.
Sal, what number will we be approving on?
Well, you would be approving the base bid and the base bid of $3,016,500 and the two deducts that I told you about, $16,000 for smoke hatches, $17,280 for deck allowance. The final number would be $2,983,220.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
So I mean, what you're doing is awarding you're approving the award to Silktown. That's the first thing. I should let Gerald actually lead you on that.
All right, Gerald, why don't you give us the next steps on this, all right?
Yes. So the matter before the committee now is to approve the award to Silktown Roofing, Inc. For this project. And as Sal alluded to, because of the budget, it'll be the amount that Sal had mentioned, which is basically taking deducts from that base bid number.
All right.
So if we take, even with the deducts, we're still over the budgeted amount, correct?
Right. It's a bit of a predicament because I think to Jane's point is I don't know how we're going to get to that number before until we do all those other things.
We're not going to get to that number, and I don't know if we can approve this higher than what we've budgeted.
Right. Kind of puts you in a pickle.
Because that requires us to get additional funding and going through the three boards and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't see how we can do it until we have numbers, which I understand without going back to all of the bidders, which would be quite a process.
Well, no, we wouldn't go back. No, what we're doing is we're just going to work with Silktown.
No.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I understand,
Jane.
We can't award something other than what you put out in the RFP, right? You can only pick the low bidder and then work with them to value engineer.
Right, and so that's what we're trying to do now. Correct.
Right, but how can we award? To Rodney's point, how can we award more than the budget? I don't think we have the authority to do that.
The $16,000 can be written out of a Board of Ed roof maintenance account. That's how you do it.
That's fine, but can we go back to Silktown and tell them or negotiate down to it was $2,096,000 set down to the budget number, and have them accept that, and then we go through the value engineering. So we're not awarding over our amount, and they'll still get their we'll still get the the deducts and whatnot, and then the value engineering. I don't know if that probably didn't make a whole lot of sense, but
no, I understand. Yeah, so this is Gerald Foley. Yeah. So we have other predicaments with the budget because the budget's just not for this one project before you. So we have a separate contract that we're going to execute with Silver Petroselli. Not a very big number, but we've got to have funding for that. But as Sal alluded to, based on the conversation that we had with Silktown earlier today, we have a high level of probability or assurance that we're going to be well below that number. But to your point, what we need to do is we need to do that scan, and then based on that scan, we'll have a relatively high number or high level of probability of what we can save with the insulation that's there. But I don't know the answer to that question in terms of how long that would take to do that.
Well, and how do we officially get the money that from the operating budget that Charles says we can move in here? I don't know how we.
All right. So how that works is I just had this happen with an HVAC project that we're doing for the police station. So we had funded, and I'm just going to like round numbers for you. We had funded $440,000 to replace an AC unit on the top of the police station. And so what happened was all the bids came in higher than that number. So what we did is we squared away with the finance office that Public Works would have access to their operating account to replace. It was a component of that project, and I think the amount was in the neighborhood of $40,000. So what we did was in the action that I submitted to the Board of Selectmen is I had the base number, the base project bid number, and the account, and then what I did is I had that supplemental account, and so I used those two counts to get us over the hurdle to make the award. So it might be a cleaner method is to go back and we can do some of the deducts, but then getting assurance from what Sal said to use that supplemental account to offset it so that when we're going forward, we have all the numbers there. And then afterwards, we do the value engineering, and kind of what Rodney said is we're taking our deducts at that point. But yeah, you are correct though. You have to we can't do fudge the number to get there. We need to cover the amount of the project with the accounts that are available. And then some of these ones are reasonable to deduct. Like Sal said, replacing, you can do it, take money off for the deck replacement. You have the other one for the hatches. So when you deduct these down, I think the variance is actually much smaller. But the other piece we don't have is we don't have a contingency. So depending on going before the boards, they might say, no, we want you to fund a contingency of 3%. That's a little bit harder hurdle to get over until we have the number on the insulation and on the curtains or the curbing for the raising the units. And then there was a third and fourth item that they mentioned, the salvaging the drains. They said they were carrying $75,000 for new drains. We don't know what the number will be for basically rebuilding the existing, but it's obviously not replacing all the drains, so the number would be substantially less than that. So kind of taking pennies all over the place. We will have enough money to fund the project, but it's not going to be as clean as saying right out of the bat we're gonna have X contingency.
Gerald,
yes.
How do we hold this good contractor that we have in place?
So I think that's the other hurdle that we've got to overcome. So they told us on the phone today that because of the supply chain issues that they want us to get a letter of intent, and so we had put in the addenda that we would get back to them. I think we had like a week after the bids were open, and again we were thinking that this would have been a little cleaner. So we were hoping to get approval this evening, and then we were going to meet internally to do the fuzzy math to get us to where we need to, and then by say next week, say the early or the middle of next week, we would issue a letter to the contractor letting them know that we're going forward, and then we've told them too that it still has to go to the boards. And the other issue we're going to have this month is the Board of Selectmen are only meeting one time, and that's tonight. They're not on the schedule to meet again until March. So I've got to overcome that hurdle and ask them to see if they'll hold a special meeting. I'm not sure if that's actually going to happen, but I couldn't. I've got to put the ducks in a row. So I'm thinking that even if they met if they met tonight, they typically don't meet the following Monday, but I might get them, that basically give us another, not next week, but the following Monday. But it's all going to be dependent upon their schedule.
So the
following Monday is going to be the president's. They're not going to meet that Monday.
So that week is what I meant. I'm sorry. Yeah, so that's, and I think that's why they canceled that meeting, was because of that holiday. So I have to ask them, but I didn't want to, I've brought the issue forward that we potentially would like to request a special meeting, but again, until I had all the information, I didn't want to, say, yeah, we want it on this date. So this project we have a lot of little hurdles that we have to overcome. And the biggest one is the supply chain. So in other words, if we delay, say we delay 2 weeks, that could basically prevent, because the other issue is Silktown said they're in the midst of contacting their suppliers right now, and they're waiting for commitments on when the products will actually get there. So they said it, as of today, they didn't know, but they were highly confident that if we ordered, by the beginning of March, they'd have a high level of confidence that they would have materials, as Sal was saying, say by the end of April. So basically, we'll say 8 to 10 weeks. And so what they said is if they did that was another little chink in the armor here too, is that they wanted approval to basically pre-order stuff, and then once they get it to actually warehouse it, and then they wanted to basically be allowed to bill, so basically for stored materials. And again, this is only because of the supply chain. So we know that if we wait.
Gerald, how are they going to know exactly what to order in the next few weeks until we do the value engineering process?
Well, they're going to. Right. Well, again, but so that's, I think that was what we thought is over time is to kind of figure those pieces out. So today, as Sal alluded to, we just talked with them this morning. We've got. Ken Lindsay was kind enough to contact the company about doing the radar testing on the roof for the X-ray, and so we've got number from there. I don't recall what the timing of it on that particular scan was going to be. I don't know if it was a week or it was 2 weeks, and then once we had.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Continue.
Oh no, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Well, basically, I was just going to chime in and say the scanning guy is ready for me to tell him to get out there. He said he could get out there this week and have it turned around within a day or two.
Okay.
Yeah. So based on that, we would know. We would go next week. We'd get the results back. I don't know how long it takes Silktown to look at the scan and make an assessment. That part I don't know. Ken, do you have any input?
It's not up to Silktown. It's up to our engineers and architects to look at it.
Yes, I'll be working closely with Silktown and obviously Sal and Gerald. As soon as the information comes in, we'll be able to do a takeoff on the materials. Say on the best case scenario, let's hypothetically say 5 to 10% of the roof is saturated, then we could just do the simple arithmetic right from there, and it shouldn't be that cumbersome of a task. Again, once we get our information, so yeah, we could solve it relatively quickly once we have our information in front of us.
Okay.
Okay. So Mike. Sorry.
Go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So my question here is now, if we want to move this forward, based on everything that Ken and Sal and Gerald have said, how can we word this in such a way that we're not awarding over the budget? We say something to the effect of, we award, the building committee approves something of an award based on
I was just going to get to that.
Alternate. What?
I was just going to get to that because we have the minutes, okay? And the minutes have recorded all of these various procedures. So I think that's how we would cover that.
But so, Rich, this is Gerald Foley. I have a suggestion. So what the committee could do is to make this simple. You could just say that you're authorizing an award to Silktown Roofing, based upon availability of funding.
Okay.
So it's kind of cover, the fact that you have to, it's you're saying that it'll be contingent upon the availability of funding.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay, I would be comfortable with that. That's
right. Okay.
Well, that's us, up to us, and then we could report back to you next Monday if you want to hold another meeting to give you an update.
Well, I would like to see that for our next meeting. I would like to see some hard numbers on the VE issues.
Right.
I believe that you will, Rodney, before then. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's great.
Right.
If that happens, that's terrific.
All right. All right. Let's
It's
try to
been
move this along.
we're handling something that hasn't been handled in some 30, 40 years. Inflation, messing around with us.
And
some
we
of
have
us
a
old
good
folks
contract.
understand that, but it's an unusual item, so we're going through the muck as best we can.
So, Gerald, with that wording, that's enough to get the select folks to.
Well, no, not really, because so what we have to do is I'll have to actually find the funding. So what I'll do is I'll be working with Sal to basically identify accounts. So if all goes perfectly well, then it'll basically be the one account that has all the funding in this. If not, Sal will be presenting another account with money in that he's going to put forward for, kind of as in the motion to encumber the funds for the project. And then what we would do is we would have that whatever fund that is that on the first invoice we just make sure we don't hit that account. We just kind of leave it with no funds being charged against it, because the thought being is that all the costs are going to be absorbed within that single account.
Okay.
In other words, we make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's only for the funding authorization that we have to make sure we fully cover the cost of the project. So that's why we have to identify the other accounts.
All right, Gerald.
And it would be an account for Silktown. It would be the roof maintenance account in the amount of $16,013, and that makes up the shortage to the 2.983 number.
Right. The only thing I don't know is if they'll say that they want a contingency in that initial authorization, even though we're not going to utilize it. We might get pushed on that and say no, we need to. So that was, instead of that $16,000 number, it might be that 3% times the the cost of the that $90,000 number. So I don't know for sure. I'm thinking
we should have some of the VE numbers by then.
Well, right. Hopefully, yes. But I'm just saying this is depending on how it's all spun.
Mm-hmm.
We might have to cover a little bit more than that.
Understood.
All right. Anything further by anybody? Gerald, if you could, what's the verbiage that you had used?
Well, yes. Well, so you're making a recommendation of an award to Silktown Roofing, and so it would have in the verbiage, because it's to this specific project. So it's you're authorizing an award to Silktown Roofing for the roof replacement at Roger Ludlow Middle School for a sum not to exceed, and then in this case It's going to be the amount that's listed before you is that $3,016,500. And then we're going to add, like as I was saying before, we're going to add that contingency number in. So to roll it up, so we'll make it an even number, $3,100,000. This award is contingent upon the availability of funding.
I'm sorry, you lost me on that. How did we get to $3,100,000?
Because I added because you have to award more because it's that contingency. You know, I was saying that was typically on your roof projects. You got to have some contingency.
But how could we award on $3,100,000 when we don't have that funding?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm putting in that caveat at the end. Because it's going to be, this award is contingent upon availability of funding.
And this all goes to the first select board anyhow, right?
Yes. Yeah. So between now and probably by the end of the week, we'll have more information for you. And so that's what I'm saying. Ideally, the idea would be not to have to come back to your committee to get you to authorize it. But if you guys don't feel comfortable with that, then the thought would be I would say by next Monday, we should have all these numbers for you and then give you a more definitive number.
When you go before the first select woman, you're going to point all of this out to her, are you not?
Yeah, yes. So right. So what'll happen is, your committee's pushing it forward, and your basic recommendation of an award, and you're basing it on the availability of funding. And so now at the next level, you're actually my office. We put together authorization language, and then in that authorization, I have to list the accounts that the money's actually coming from, and then explain how we're going to be, facilitating that project within those budget numbers and within those accounts.
Well, okay, then so shouldn't the motion be something like, I'm just going to try this, something like based on Silktown's bid of $3,016,500 and accepting the taking the allowance out for metal deck replacement of $17,280, as well as the deduct alternate number 4 for smoke hatches, and in addition to that, contingent upon transfer of the balance of monies from another budget, something like that.
He probably could.
And then, it'll all come together. But $3,100,000 seems like we're going kind of in the wrong direction.
Well, that's why I said not to exceed that number. That's what I said. You could do it also too. You could say it's the first number. You could say it's the bid number. But what I'm saying is that with the construction contingency at 3%. That's why I rounded the number up.
Right. But do we have to address that at this point as a committee, because we don't?
Well, no, I was trying to give you a not to exceed number, so that's why I was doing that math on it.
Why wouldn't we be talking about the deducts that you've identified?
Well, we could do. I think Sal said he did them, so Sal might be able to present another number that's more conducive.
Well, I understand. This is Sal Morbido. I understand what Gerald's saying, and Jane, I understand your concern. What typically happens is an AIA contract is generated between Silktown, the contractor, and the town, and it goes through town attorney, and they, as you know, with these contracts, you can go into we'll take dispute resolution. It could be negotiate. It can be arbitrated, or it could be we go to court. That's something that is typically decided, and that's based on how the town typically litigates things. So they fix up all the contract, and it goes to the Board of Selectmen for approval. What Gerald's saying is, if you award on the 2983 number, and they approve a contract for 2983, and during the course of the project, there are change orders in that 3% that we're trying to free up with the VE.
Right.
It's a modification to the contract that would have to go back to the Board of Selectmen. What Gerald is saying is let them approve the number with the contingency amount. We'll figure out where the contingency comes from. But what's the number that they're going to approve, so you're not rushing and begging for special meetings of the Board of Selectmen to approve modification to the contract because you approved say you approved a $3,000 change order and you didn't have headroom in the number they approved. Technically, they got to go in and they have to reapprove that.
Okay.
So that's why Gerald is trying to round in that number, and that would be, I mean, if we took the 2983 220 number and increased it by 3%, that would be $3,072,072. 72, say 73, round it to 73. $3 million.
I like rounding it to 100.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
Now that I'm understanding where you're coming from.
Go for it. Go for it. Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to make it. Go ahead.
A 3% contingency is, not really sufficient. Not when you're ripping up a roof. Right. I realize it's not an old building, but you still don't know ever what you're going to find under there.
Right.
It's one of those things. I mean, it's a pretty nothing got buried. It's new. It was new construction 18 years ago. It's we actually have the drawings for it. It's pretty straightforward in that regard. So you really shouldn't be seeing big change orders if you see them. So.
Okay, so we're not acting. Sorry.
And we actually haven't seen serious change orders throughout.
Don't say it.
For roofing. No, I'm just saying roofing historically has been pretty, tame for the most part.
So you're also suggesting that we are not acting at this point. On the deducts, or taking out the allowance, or the deduct alternates. You're saying we're just going with a round, or a number that includes a contingency and a not to exceed, and use the term if funding is available, and then we'll hammer out the details. Is that correct?
I would take those deducts. I would take those deducts now.
Yeah, we got to take the deducts.
Okay, so are those three separate motions?
If you want it to be.
Actually, Sal, we don't really need to take the deducts, because if we're going 3.1, if we don't take the deducts right now, with the 3%, it comes out to $3,107,107.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's the way we want to go.
It's $7,000. It's $7,000 more. Hell, we've already spent $100,000. Why not spend $7,000 more?
Yeah, and keep the deducts in there as part of the value. Well, they're not the value engineering, but like the value engineering, and just work that all out together. I mean, since we can't get it under the budget anyway, why act on them now?
Right, and then To Jane, this is Gerald Foley. Yes. So you were asking the question about the percentage of that contingency. I would defer then to Ken Lindsley and see if he can give us a number. Whether he thinks it's 3%, 4%, 5%, and then we could do the math on that.
Yeah, folks. Well, I agree with the discussion on the 3%, as you guys had mentioned before. So I'd say that 3% is the way to go.
Okay.
Okay.
Again, this is Ken. Sorry.
Thank you,
That's
Ken.
okay. Thank you.
All right. Are we ready for a motion? I think we are. Go ahead.
What is the town? Just humor me one more time, please. What is the town going to be writing the contract for?
Well, as far as the amount.
Yeah.
So, well, right now I'm trying to do this like in baby steps. So the first baby step is really to get authorization to proceed, and that authorization to proceed is contingent upon availability of funding. So what I'm trying to do is to get just like a not to exceed number approved, so that takes care of the initial authorization.
All right.
And so that
question.
no, I will. I'm going to get there. So
you answered it. It's a not to exceed.
Yeah, right. Because because to what Sal said before is if I don't put in the whole number, I don't want to have to go back and all of a sudden, like Sal said, there's a change order that we didn't, comes out of left field, and now it goes above your authorization. Now what do I do? So now in theory, I'm supposed to go back and request to basically increase the contract from X to Y. So I try to include it in the initial contract so that it's our number we're holding, and then they have to come back and actually request to bill against that number.
All right. So if we make a recommendation to authorize a procedure with the on the not on with Silktown with the contingency that the project will not exceed cost reimbursement, monetary reimbursement will not exceed $3,100,000. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Based on if funds are available.
Right, availability of funding.
Okay, based on availability of funding.
All right.
Subject to.
Yeah, subject to.
Subject to. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's the motion that I just made then, all right? Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Objection? Hearing none. Motion is carried. So at this point, we're not going to really meet until if there's a special meeting needed. We'll hear from you, Gerald, right?
Yes. Yep.
And we're anticipating that's going to be like in 2 weeks. So.
Yeah. Hopefully less. To meet with you guys, and then Sal and I, hopefully by the end of the week, we'll have more information to start a communication.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll put it on. As soon as I hear from you, I'll schedule it for a special meeting, and hopefully it doesn't interfere with anybody's plans, and we can get a quorum when this is required. Anything else that anybody's got to say?
Nope.
No, this is
All right,
our
I'm going to
first
adjourn
meeting.
the meeting.